Love you, Nanette.
Love you too. Thank you, everybody. And welcome, everyone. This is Nanette Kennedy, and this is the Humanities Team Evolution Revolution book group. And today, Linda Lamp will be running the show, as I've got something I have to do. And I will see you all next week. And Linda and Mary, I'm handing it over to you, and I will talk to you guys later.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so we are reading The Storm Before the Calm, Conversations with Humanity, book number 1. And we are on, this is the second conversation. I think that's how the chapters are broken down. And the answers to why and when. And this, according to my Kindle, is about page 5. So anything before we get started? Okay, I will get reading. And just for anybody that is not, doesn't remember or isn't up to speed, this book came out right around 2012. So if you think back to what was happening in 2012, we thought that, there was some kind of end of the world event on December 21st, 2012, that was supposedly going to happen. And so there was a lot of turmoil. So this is Neil speaking here. As we contemplate all, yes?
According to my book, we left off on conversation number 3, and we read the first 2. But
okay.
That's all.
Really?
Yeah, but maybe I, am wrong. So we can start on number 2. I don't think it matters. It's only a few pages. There might be a reason why the world wants us to start there anyway. Probably why
I don't
right now. So
yeah, I don't know. I just open it up from where I left it last, and that's the page it was on. So, and I did just go forward to chapter 3. Well, it'll be review. If we've already done it, we probably need to hear it again, apparently.
That's what I'm looking at it, and I don't really remember it well enough anyway. So
yeah, I just thumbed through it, and I'm like, I guess we need a refresher. So we're going to read chapter 2 or conversation 2 again, maybe. All right, as we contemplate all that's occurring in our planet these days, it's fair to ask, does this have to happen? Why is this happening? The answer is yes, it has to happen. What is happening because life itself is happening. And all of life moves in cycles according to a formula. This formula requires that life progresses through phases based on principles of functionality, adaptability, and sustainability. Whenever the functionality of life in any of its many forms is threatened, it adapts that manifestation, thus rendering itself sustainable in form. This is the reason for the human experience that we call death. Death is not the end of life at all, but the continuation of life through the adaptation of the manifestation of a given life form, thus rendering that life sustainable in a new form. This is true of everything in existence. Nothing dies, and you cannot kill a thing, not anything at all. You cannot kill a person. You cannot kill an animal. You cannot kill a plant. This is important to understand during this time, especially for there are those who have died and those who will die during this overhaul of humanity. And it is both helpful and healing to know that death is not a process that takes life. It is a process that changes life. We miss their presence here with us. We miss them terribly, but we need not mourn for them. The new form they have embraced has brought them great joy. Wouldn't this mean that it's a splendid idea for us to end our own lives in our present form? I get that question a lot from many people.
Why are you talking to me this way? What hurts you so much that you're talking to me the way you're talking to me?
I'm muting Shabana so that we're not listening to Neil read while I'm reading. Okay. Now we're back.
Can you please say what page you are on?
A page right now, hang on, it says it's saving to the furthest location. So, oh dear. Now I clicked on something.
It's
Hang
page
on.
6. It's page 6 that we're on.
Page 6.
Yeah, right
Okay.
near the top of page 6.
All right, hang on. I get that question a lot from people in many audiences and many cultures. My answer is always no. The soul's departure from this physical life is never a sadness, but always a joy, whenever and however it happens. That doesn't mean, though, that it is a good idea to simply exit this physical life. The soul's agenda is what is being served here on the earth. And if the soul's agenda is complete, the right and perfect circumstances will be co-created for its departure. But those circumstances will never be artificially produced by the mind. Just as it is a joy to leave the physical body, so it is a joy to stay. And if life in the physical is not a joy, it is because we are not looking at it from the perspective of the soul, but trying rather to figure it out with our mind. Life will never make sense to the mind. It will only make sense and can only produce long-term sustained happiness, peace, and joy when embraced from the perspective of the soul. The trick then, if we are not happy in life, is not to leave the body, but to join the soul. This can be done while one is with the body. Yet most people are not bringing the soul into their daily experience. Before this conversation is over, share with you exactly how to do that. And when you communicate with your soul, you will understand fully what is going on here on our planet. I mean, you know that when the ability of any life form to continue in its present expression is compromised, that life form will adapt its expression to allow it to immediately become sustainable again. It is in this way that life renders itself eternal. Now, there's no questioning that the life expression that we call Earth, what some have come to name Gaia, has had its ability to continue in its present expression compromised. Conditions leading to this threatened circumstance have been created in part by the human life forms inhabiting Earth. Those human forms, in turn, had their own expression threatened. In short, neither the planet nor its people can continue to go on as they have been. Don't worry, they won't. Having reached the limit of its ability to produce sustainability in the Earth's environment under present conditions, the cycle of life is now playing its effect, adapting all life forms in this environment so that all life expression here may once again be rendered sustainable. In other words, life on Earth is changing in order to continue. The fact that it is changing is the guarantee that it will continue. So that's the why of what's going on. Before I get to the when, let me explain where that question that was asked just above came from. Voices that differ. A conversation is not a conversation if it's a monologue. So from that very moment that I contemplated having this conversation with you through this book, I knew I wanted to avoid creating a single voice oration, a soliloquy or a sermon or a homily. It's all very nice to invite you to jump into a discussion online, but that doesn't change what's happening here, which would, in fact, be a monologue. Unless it wouldn't. Unless I could find a way to convert what could come off as a lecture into an actual conversation right on these pages. Neither the planet nor its people can continue to go on as they have been. That's what I came up with. I could create a dialogue growing out of conversations that have already taken place. I could include here the thoughts, questions, and comments of other people, not just my own, offered in their voice. I could have a conversation that has been retrieved from my memories of previous exchanges with others. In this way, I could give voice to some who differ with what's on these pages. I think that's important. Voices that differ are voices that enlarge the scope of every conversation. They're also voices that represent a great many people. I hope we hear voices that differ in online dialogue as well. As for the voices that differ here in this book, let me explain where they could come from. I've been sharing the ideas being explored here for a good while on the road. A long string of evening lectures and weekend workshops, television appearances, and talk show guestings, I've received some pretty tough questions and engaged in many vivid, spiritedly, sometimes challengingly, and once in a while mildly aggressive exchanges, all of which have been totally okay with me because I knew all of them were serving me. They were showing me where my thinking was perhaps a bit fuzzy, when my logic was perhaps faulty, which of my comments were hitting the nail on the head, and in general, how other people were thinking about these same issues. Over my 20 years as a member of the working press, I trained my mind to remember such encounters, often word for word, especially the more memorable ones. And I knew that I could bring the essence of these exchanges forward with the slightest stimulation. So I thought, if anything I put down as I wrote this book brought back memories of one of those prior conversations, I would include my memory here. In that way, the present expression would not just be a monologue, me rambling on and on from my point of view, but a monologue that includes conversations derived from previous dialogues. Conversations not simply quoted, but inserted into the narrative flow as if they were happening now. I could dialogue with a composite voice, and many people who've dialogued with me in the past. A conversation with humanity. The more I thought about it, the more I liked the idea, and so I decided to do it. And that's where the question that just popped into the narrative above came from. You'll be hearing from this composite voice in the pages that follow as well. And what kinds of people comprise this composite voice will be represented in these remembered exchanges. Well, my prior explorations of the life-changing ideas presented here have taken place with folks all over the world, from Denmark to Norway to Sweden to France, Korea to America, to Ireland to Poland, from Jamaica to Japan, from the steps of Machu Picchu to the steps of the Great Wall of China, from the Red Square in Moscow to the Vatican Square in Rome, from down under, Australia and New Zealand, to up over, Iceland, from the central West Africa to Central America, from across the United Kingdom to across the United States. Interest and the opinions I've heard in these many places and from these many sources reflect a wide range of cultures, backgrounds, religious affiliations, political convictions, and social conventions, making for a spirited and definitely not one-sided monologue. And when you add your point of view later in the online discussion, we will really have what I believe our species could truly benefit from right now a conversation with humanity. So on the pages that follow, you'll get a glimpse of what people from all over the world have been thinking and asking about our tumultuous times and about the messages that I'm sharing, which I believe could change our world. I'll present their views here in a dialogue format so that you can experience the exchanges very much as they originally took place. Yeah? And going back to what I was saying, end of the overhaul. Several famous prognosticators appear to indicate that the time of our species' next great evolutionary step is now. Looking back, we've seen that life cycles are not actually that difficult to predict. Beginning in ancient times, people began to observe rhythms in events. Wise ones listened carefully to oral histories and began keeping track of the cycles. They used their observations to estimate the time of future cycles. This estimate of time is what we find in the prognostications of Nostradamus, the prophecies of religious figures from all over the world's greatest religions, the predictions of the Mayan calendar, etc., many of which point to this very moment in human history as being significant. Wikipedia tells us that the numerous cases of prophecy exist among Native American populations, and that the Onondaga and the Hopi, among others, have prophecies that appear to relate times we are entering now. For example, the Onondaga talk of a time when the water will not be fit to drink from streams. This, they say, will signify the beginning of a period they call the Great Purification, where the peoples will go through immense trials to purify themselves of the corrupting influences that have beset them. Now I know why we're reading this again. This, they say, will be a period of joy for those who understand what is happening and engage this period as a time of purification, but will be a period of immense suffering for those who cling to their worldview and lifestyles. There was a big twinkle in my eye and a huge smile on my face as I read this prophecy, because I couldn't have put it better myself. That is exactly what I have been come here to tell you. We are in for a period of joy. This period of joy will include suffering for sure if we insist on clinging to our old worldview and lifestyle. Just look at what the old worldview produced in just a few months before this book was published. Again, this was 2012-ish. Several nations had their future altered forever by revolutions. Other countries were devastated by the worst natural disasters in decades. People around the world saw their individual lives continue to be dismantled by a global financial meltdown that began 24 months earlier. All of this has happened in our world since then, and we may well understand why much of humanity is looking to its future a bit nervously, wondering, is this just the beginning of that final month, of that much called year 2012 will bring? What lies ahead, not just in December 2012, but beyond? Points I hope you'll remember. The overhaul of humanity is a part of natural process by which life sustains itself. What would be beneficial right now is a conversation with humanity. The scope and sweep of events tells us that the overhaul of humanity has already begun. The time is now. An action I hope you will take. Think about ways in which you may be clinging to an old worldview and lifestyle. What does this mean to you? How does this look? Contemplate what's going on in this world and in your life between the time this book was written, early summer of 2011, and now. And ask yourself, does it feel like a shift is taking place? Perhaps begin a personal journal about all that you're observing as a part of your process. Begin thinking about what you would put into a new cultural story for humanity if you were asked to write it, which you are being asked to do right here. Now we're at conversation 3.
Well, do we want to stop for any kind of discussion here? I agree that is very clear why we read this again in light of everything that happened, has happened, is happening. So I just wanted to see if anyone had anything they wanted to contribute to a conversation before we go on. Anybody?
No, I'll just make the observation that it's a 9-year cycle from the time this was written,
Yeah.
2011, to now.
I was sort of sitting
So it,
like, I don't know how to put it, just the weight of it all, you know? There's a weight to what he's saying and to what's happening in the world. It's like there's I don't know, I guess maybe significance or something, which is sort of obvious. But yes, 9-year cycle, and here we are, and it's like, whoa, that's all. But if no one else has anything to say, we can certainly continue reading.
I was just going to add that I feel like it's almost like a double helix, like there's a movement upward and there's a movement downward all at the same time happening.
Yeah.
Like there are those of us that are on the upward side, and we're looking at everything that's happening and we're seeing it as a launching point. And then there's the other people that are clinging to the old.
Right.
And now, I mean, so before this last week, we were caught up clinging to our old lifestyle in terms of going to the hair salon, going to the beauty parlor, you know, all those things. But now we're clinging to our racism, basically, right? The people that are not protesting, the ones that are in resistance to the new awakening of this past week,
Right.
they've added that to what they're clinging to.
Right. Yes. And I have been having some conversations with some of the people who are clinging to it to try to open eyes a little bit. And I know it's like, you know, I'm doing my job. I'm being calm. I'm pointing things out. I'm not getting all angry and fighting. I'm just saying, hey, you know, maybe there's a different perspective to consider here. And then linking to someone who says it better than me, you know, who is the race that's affected more deeply. But there was a quote that you posted today, Linda, the one about whoever hasn't sort of fully encountered their inner guide or truth. Do you know what quote I'm talking about?
Let me see if I can find it real quick. The Ben Franklin one, justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are.
No.
That one?
It was the Amber Hearst one.
Oh, okay. Amber Hearst. Yeah, man, she's amazing. Let me read that one. We are witnessing the greatest psychological war ever in all of history to this point. Any body who has not met their own sovereignty is not immune to this. Everybody who has not met their own inner authority in full is being played.
That is what we are seeing. And that is the thing where, you know, the people who I know are working on like the path are expressing views, you know, and I'm just pointing it out in a kind and loving way to the people who I think have an open heart and might be able to hear it. That's all, you know.
Yeah, and so then Amaya Gail Gregory, who is also amazing, made a comment on that quote, and she said, met and embodied, for meeting alone leaves room for more war adventures.
Oh, yes.
And so everybody who has not met and embodied their own inner authority in full is being played. That's even an improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've stopped commenting on people's posts where they're off in the weeds, you know, where they're either with the conspiracy or whatever, you know, any of that. I've actually stopped commenting. I don't. I'm trying to do what Matt Kahn suggested. I'm trying to be polite. What is it? Let me not butcher that quote.
And not mind what they're doing. I just want to say that these are people who are decrying the violence of the protest without having decried the violence of the murder. And I think
Right.
I think it's important if there are people who I think might be reachable and maybe they're not, but it's part of what I see as my work as an ally. Is it's my job to point out to those white folks where they're being blind in ways that I too have been blind. You know, it's like, I feel that it's my job as a privileged person to just
But isn't that a judgment?
point them out.
That's a judgment of them, isn't it?
No, I don't feel that that's a judgment of them. I feel that that's just, I feel like it's my job as an ally. You can feel like it's a judgment, but I feel like it's my job as an ally because I'm not coming from a judgmental place. If I feel judgmental,
Okay.
I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to the ones who I think have the capacity to have empathy for other humans in a way that maybe they're not embodying. Maybe that's judgmental, but I don't feel it as judgment.
Right.
I understand
Right.
that other quote, and I mean, I'm not engaging with a lot of people, believe me, but I just have
Right.
reading things about what I can do as an ally, and that's one of them. Talk to my actual friends, not some anonymous post somewhere, but an actual
Right.
who I know, who I feel has the capacity to listen. I feel that's my job.
Right. I guess that's that part right there is the key. That if there has to, you have to have a sense if there's an openness. Otherwise, you're just shouting in the void, right? It's just, you're wasting your own energy if there's no openness on them. You're trying to change something. And that's, I guess that's what I'm trying to avoid, is making comments that are intended to try and change somebody's point of view. Because
Yeah,
everybody has to wake up on their own, right? Nothing we say is going to wake somebody up.
no, point in a direction. I just feel like you
Right.
can point in a direction. And it's like, I'm not shouting, I'm just saying calmly. That's one of the things I'm really proud about, actually. I'm not being all angry and making it about me and my emotions. I'm saying, you know, maybe think about how it feels to be someone whose survival every day, you know, just is, you know, things that you take for granted, they can't. And just maybe think about that. That's all. And I don't have any attachment to outcome. But I feel like it's my job to say, hey, because it's like, I don't know, I've always felt like it was my job to point out racism and not tolerate it. And this is just a more subtle form of racism. And I'm not trying, I mean, I guess I am sort of trying to change somebody, but not specifically in that moment. I'm just trying to shine a light. And whatever happens after that is not my business. But the shining the light is definitely my business, with kindness and love and no agenda.
Right.
But I understand what you're saying too.
Mary, I have to disagree with you because otherwise the meeting isn't complete.
Okay.
Now, when you said that I have to shine a light, I have technical difficulties with that because you are the light. So stop trying to shine it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I am being the light.
You just are the light. You can't help being it.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to correct you. That's a great way to make friends and influence people.
I know it gives you great pleasure.
It does. I want to share something with everyone. The reason I'm late to the meeting is because I was absolutely floored by Neil's. Linda and I were at another meeting this morning where Neil Donald Walsh was giving the whole world an e-treat, like a weekend, 12 hours on communion with God. It's a book we've read. Are any of you aware of that program?
No.
Okay, let me tell you that he has been married 7 times and has no problem whatsoever talking about it. And what impressed me the most is that he was telling one of the questioners that, well, my current wife loves me and everyone can see that. So she said to Neil, a previous wife that he was having coffee with, said to Neil, gosh, if you treated me that way, we'd still be married. So Neil said to her that, I wrote it all down here, but I just remember it. Neil said to her, I'm so sorry that my process of learning caused you so much harm. And she was so grateful because he was humbly admitting to his own fault and telling her that he regrets what he did. I mean, I have never in my life heard anything like that. So I was just stunned that he actually walks the talk, and that makes him and his books more attractive than ever, to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. Thank you.
Shall we read on?
I think so, unless anyone has anything else. Thank you for sharing that, Shalana.
Thank you for your complete silence, everyone.
I said thank you for sharing that.
Yes, you did.
I had stepped away from my computer audio. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And I remembered I was supposed to be helping host the meeting and ran back. Sorry, everybody.
And that's all right. I ended up hanging, you know, I dial in to read so that we have the better signal on the reading side of it. But then I'm also attached on the Zoom side of it, so you can see my picture. But my phone fell on the floor, and when I went to pick it up, I hung up. So I'm back.
That's funny. Well, I think
yeah.
What time is it? We can go on to conversation number 3.
Yeah. Yeah. So the one thing we know for sure, the major disruptions in life as we know it will not be ending soon, not before and not immediately after December 2012. Yet, and I say this again, because it is important, things are not what they seem. What is beginning is not the end of history, but the beginning of a new era, not the death of modern society, but the birthing of a new civilization. Therefore, living in fear and apprehension, nervous caution and skittish timidity warily searching for a safe place, hoarding food and hunkering down, preparing for a caveman arrival mentality to overcome every human being on the earth as all the structures, conveniences, and technologies of our world simultaneously collapse, is not the answer. The answer is to get into the game, not get out of the game by running from a playing field. And the game is not the survival game. The game is the creation game. The answer is to join in the co-creation of magnificent days to come. I have something specific to suggest that we can all do. And it's so easy, we'll wonder what took us so long to just jump in and do it. My suggestion is that we all engage in a conversation with humanity, the part of humanity that we personally touch. That's it? Having a conversation? That's the big solution to everything? That's it? And yes, that can be the big solution to everything. Doesn't seem much like a solution to me. It can be, I promise you. And I'll talk a bit more about the power of all this later. Right now, let me just say that you can start your end of this conversation with humanity by simply telling everyone you know that if we do not play our part, some of those things could happen. And so today, just as many years ago, it is exactly as American President Franklin Roosevelt said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. What it's all about and what it's not. How to proceed without fear will become clearer to all of us when we realize that what is taking place now all over our planet is not what it seems. It has nothing to do at its basis with politics. So the upvotes in governance are misplaced and will do little or nothing to change things. It has nothing to do at its basis with economics. So the protests about economic disparities are misdirected and will do little or nothing to change things. It has nothing to do at its basis with military might. So the use of military power to quell dissent or resolve an issue will do little or nothing to change things. It may look as if it has to do with all of those things, and it has to do with none of those things. Yet if we do not know what it does have to do with, and if we're unwilling to look at what it might have to do with, we're lost. If we don't know what the problem is, how can we get the problem solved? What is needed here is not a revolution on the ground. It is a revolution in the mind. The irony here is that what we want is that we want to solve it. Not a single person I know wants this to go on forever. It's true that there are some folks out there who are actually welcoming these events, joyously proclaiming that these occurrences herald the coming of Armageddon, the last battle between good and evil before the day of judgment, when they imagine that only they will be saved. But if most human beings are yearning to better times, not the end of time. Indeed, what I observe everywhere I go is that the human race is losing patience with itself. We don't want the kind of world we've created. Like a dissatisfied artist standing back from the canvas, we've decided that we're not pleased with the picture we've painted. We've also become very clear, finally, that we can't paint a better picture by using the same brushstroke in the same places with the same colors we've used before. Something got to change. It's time to tear the canvas up and start over. It is this awareness that is producing the overhaul of humanity, the solution to the problem. Let's go to the dictionary and look up that word, overhaul. a comprehensive examination and repairing of something. Ah, yes, the repair of something. Not the destruction of something, the repairing of something. That's what this time on our planet is all about. A lot of people are running around declaring that this is the end of everything. It's not. It's the beginning. This is about repair, not destruction of our world and our way of life. In order for these repairs to be made, we have to be clear about what is needed. What is needed here is not a revolution on the ground. It is a revolution in the mind. It is our thinking we must change. In the past, we kept trying to change conditions on the ground. And even when we did manage to do so, every so often we found a Band-Aid that helped. The same old, age-old problems eventually reemerged because nothing had been altered in our mindset. All of that is changing. Large numbers of people are getting this now. And so we are going to weather this storm, you and I. We're going to give our children and theirs a wonderful world in which to live. We're about to turn the page in human history. Will you turn that page with me now? Points I hope you'll remember. We are approaching not the end of history, but the beginning of a new era. It's time to tear up the canvas and start over. Large numbers of people are getting this, and we are going to weather this storm. Action, I hope you will take. Start the conversation with humanity by telling everyone you know about what you're reading here. End of chapter.
Would anyone like to start the conversation?
Yeah, I don't know one person that I know who'd want to hear any of this.
Besides us here
Exactly.
in the circle?
Like, you know, I've got some Zoom calls, but it's just IRL people that I could not bring this up to one.
I probably have some, maybe one or two, not who live nearby though. Maybe one or two.
That's why I'm so quiet most of the time when I'm out with people. I got nothing to say because I know they're not going to understand the thing that comes out of my mouth.
But I really like that this chapter started with saying we have to have a conversation after my previous little contribution.
Yes, yes, exactly. We do have to have a conversation.
We have to have, there are several conversations we need to have as a people. And
yeah, and we have to do it the right way. That's the thing. It can't be with fingers pointing and blame and judgment and all of that. It has to be a conversation from our hearts where we're sharing how we see things, how things impact us, and not making it about the other person and what they believe.
I think I really understand for the first time and how I need to communicate with people in a way that it's like it doesn't matter if it doesn't have the impact I wish I did, but at least it feels like I'm doing it from the right place of just love and clarity on my own part. And, you know, what happens from there is not my business. You know, that's the part that's not my business. If these
Right.
people have their beliefs and that's their business, but I do feel it's my business to just say the thing, you know, say the thing that I feel is true that might make a difference. That's all. And, you know, people, the thing is, all those people who don't understand us and wouldn't want to hear this, it's because they, you know, like Linda said, people are in a different place. But how do you get from one place to another? You grow. And how do you grow? Sometimes you grow because someone you know shares something with you that makes you think about something in a different way. And that happens when they share it in a loving and non-judgmental way, not when it's all, you know, I tend to get very passionate and then I'm like, rah, rah, rah. And the comments that I have been making lately are not that. They're just like, you know, basically saying it's not my business to comment on that thing and maybe think about it before you do. That's really what I've been saying. And it's just, it feels different to me that I've sort of turned a corner of understanding how to communicate with integrity better. Because that,
Yeah, well, there's there's that saying, think, you know, before you speak, and think is an acronym for, is it thoughtful? Is it helpful? Is it informative? Is it necessary? And is it kind?
yes,
And if it isn't any of those things, then just keep your damn mouth shut.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. And sometimes it might be all of those things, but it's not necessary. And that's the one, so it can be all the other things, but if it's not necessary, then that, I feel like that's when it's that time of not my business, right? It's not my business to tell you anything, right? It's my business to share my viewpoint. That's my business, but it's not, I don't think, my business to actually tell you something about you.
Yes, it's not my business to tell you how to be. It's my business
Right.
to tell you how I have learned to be.
Yeah.
Because I think that feels good and can contribute. But I just want to say here, I think that it's really easy to not speak up about things and to justify not speaking up. Know what I mean? Like, I think
I do.
I mean, I'm sure it's right. It's about the racism thing right now in our country. And it's really easy for white people who are not suffering to not speak up about it. And that's why I feel it's really important for us to take the lead and not leave it all on the people who are suffering. You know, Black people should not have to educate white people about their racism all the time. White people need to pick up some of that mantle. That's how I, and I'm not sounding nearly as militant when I am doing that as I did just that, by the way. But that's what I really feel like I have to embody, that value that I have lived from childhood, because it's something that from a very young age, because of the circumstances of my life and family, you know, it's been very clear to me how ridiculous racism is, and, you know, how people are othered and all of that. And it's just time to, with people I know who know me, put myself out there. I'm not going to comment on threads with people I don't know where all you do is contribute to the anger and the fighting, you know? And on the thread I was on, there was one person who I went to high school with. This is a person, the woman is someone I went to high school with. She's a good person with a good heart. And yeah, she won't get any of this. But, you know, good person, good heart, I will say a thing. That's all. And there are other people on that thread who are like, all the reasons why I was wrong to say my thing. And I'm not engaged with those people because that's none of my business. I'm sticking with the person who is my friend, and she can take it or leave it, you know? So I've done that with 3 of my friends, and I think it's interesting that they're all blonde women. I want to make a hashtag, not all blonde women, because I see you there somewhere, there at Summerson. But I mean, I just think it's kind of an interesting coincidence that the 3 people who have posted things that have made me feel I need to just say a little something have all been blonde women. It's interesting.
Okay, so now what's really interesting to me is that somebody else just made a very similar comment to me on Facebook, referencing that the problem, you know, and that's just weird. That's just weird.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's an energy, right? It's an energy. It's a mindset. It's a collective.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's you. So the bigger picture here is that when we get to the new earth, this new era, the new humanity, what I think we will experience is that everyone is unique, right? So there aren't black people because everybody's got a different shade. There aren't blondes because everybody's a different shade. Everyone will be recognized for their own individual uniqueness.
Right.
And we won't lump people into groups that way. You know, we'll recognize that each one of us is an individuated aspect of divinity and sovereign in and of ourselves, you know?
Yeah, it's all totally arbitrary. That's the thing that I understood from a young age. It's all totally arbitrary, and none of it is real or makes any sense, you know? I am noticing that it's almost noon, so maybe it's time for Shivana to do the meditation, unless anybody has anything else that needs to be said first.
Does somebody want to share anything before we do the meditation?
Yes, I had
though?
something, but it's no time. Is it time?
We
Okay.
have plenty of
Okay.
time.
I wanted to share something that happened to me today, which was it's united with what you were reading, and that was today. It's Mother's Day in Sweden, and as Mother's Day was a day my daughter died 17 years ago. It's a very strong connection. She was my only daughter. I have 2 sons, but I have a place out. I go out in the forest, and there is a little water running, and it's a little stone bridge over this waterfall. And my daughter loved that place. I used to sit there and meditate when she was in her dying process and after she died. And I pass that every day when I go out for my walk. And today I went a little earlier in the morning, and I never ever, I have only once met some people, a young couple there, once in all the years I've been walking there. And today when I came there this morning, they came to, I thought they were a brother and sister or something. It was a young boy and a young woman. And they stopped and we started to talk. And it was amazing. It was exactly this kind of talk. Because it turned out it was a mother and a son. She looked very young. He was a little more than 20 and she was 44. And we had and he explained, he talked like this book about the change in life and how he looked into life, and he meditated every day, and she did, and they had a very, very special connection. And she had also lost a child, but as a baby. So she had this understanding. And we just were standing there talking about all these change, it's necessary, see beyond the darkness. And I mean, it was amazing to meet those two. And we were just staying there, and I could tell about my daughter and this place. And we met on Mother's Day in this place. And when we say, because before when I walked, I said, I just want to be with people who are like-minded today. I want to unite with that kind of people. And so they appeared. And the other couple I met some month ago or something at the same was similar, but these were more developed. And this woman, she told me about her childhood and how she had been so out of the normal way. And she thought it was a Kundalini energy in her. And that was exactly a mirror to what I have experienced. So we could just share it. And I think it was very, very special. And now when we read about this, that we were staying in the front of that death is not natural. and everything is in oneness. This boy, he was just talking. We cannot be separated, basically, and there will be the change. So it
Yeah.
was, yeah. I just want to say,
Beautiful.
yeah, it was so. I'm so grateful for that meeting, and it's happening such things all the time now. But this was very, very special, and we decided to meet again because I live not so far away from here. So
Yay! Look at that.
I love
That's
to be.
beautiful.
I love to be available for young people, and I have always done that. But now it's even more important. I'm 74 now, so
Yeah.
there is a young woman that also calls me now and then, and she's in Kundalini process. Her mother is a Kundalini teacher, and her mother doesn't understand her at all. And she got in contact with me, and she said, now she can understand. Somebody can listen, can understand her. And it is like coming back to my own young age when I talk with her, because she's a mirror to my situation. And she's also very close, similar to my daughter, because we had such a close spiritual connection. And I said for fun to her, yes, you could be she's 25, you could be my granddaughter. My eldest grandchild is 24. You could actually have been my granddaughter. I am your spiritual grandchild, she said. And so we will continue. So those people turns up when you need, as it says, we need to connect in that field. And I am not interested in doing anything more than that today for the rest of my life. I have struggled a lot to try to change things and meet up with people. But I am not the one that is quarreling and angry and so on. It's not my way of being, but I can see a lot of fights going on, and yeah, we are all one.
You also started by saying, I have the intention to meet like-minded people. And
Absolutely.
I think that's something that we can all learn from, you know. What if before you go out in your day, not that we get to go out that much lately, most of us, I don't think, you just think, you know, what if, you know, I connect with like-minded people, even if it's not me, since we can't really meet right now. But if we all hold that intention to connect with people, or even just the right people who can hear the message, you know, like people who are open to the message. I have a lot of people in my life who I know don't really totally get it, but they don't judge me and they listen. You know,
Yeah, but
I think that's a great place to start from.
it's also, I don't need to share only my things, but
Right.
if they share things that connect to me, that is also important. Then we can
Right.
interact in a way. That's what we felt when we were staying there. This mother, she said she was so surprised because I could understand. And when I told something about me, oh, she was there. And this boy also. And I could see how they were united, this mother and son. And that was on Mother's Day. They met me where I was a mother staying at the place where I used to, I was there many times with my daughter because she loved that place. And it was amazing. And yeah, my mother also has been there many times, but she died 2014, 99 years old. So she was very old. But we also had this connection. So we lived in that paradigm in a way. But my
Beautiful, Bima. Thank you.
Yeah,
grandchildren are not doing that, unfortunately. They are more normal.
happy Mother's Day, Bima.
Yeah, thank you.
You've given us a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, this I just felt that I wanted to share because it was in that dimension. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else have anything you want to say?
Where's Nanette?
She's here. She her roommate may be transitioning today, so they've got people in the room there with her, so she's probably on mute.
Okay.
Yeah, you missed that. Mary and I are running it today.
Gosh, I hope you do a good job.
Well, I don't know. It's almost over
Linda will
now.
do an
It's up to you.
excellent job. I, on the other hand, am always a bit iffy. I said it for you, Shabana.
Okay,
Go ahead.
pardon?
I was just gonna say if nobody has anybody else, you can do the meditation. But if you have to say first, that's also allowed.
You're extremely funny, Mary. And Linda, you did a beautiful job as always. I was just teasing you.
I know. I never take it personally. You know that, I hope.
Yeah, well, if you weren't good, we'd all quit. So.
All right, everybody. I think it's maybe time for our lovely meditation. Thank you all. I'm muting me.
Lord God, here we are on this Zoom call, grateful that we can preach to the converted, preach to the choir. We don't know where Anne Derby's gone, but Sarah and Angela are doing their best to get in touch with her. Thank you for keeping her well and for blessing every one of us. And bless Nanette's roommate in her transition. No one ever leaves. We're all here. We thank you that we are able to be part of the critical mass of humanity, which has been given the grace to wake up. Almost nobody in this group feels confident about sharing the wisdom Neil expresses in his books. We thank you for changing that so that many, many people in our circle are happy to share in the awakening of humanity at large. Amen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shabana. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just wish that I'd mentioned something, sort of, which is for me hot off the press, is that I wish that absolutely everyone would drop their grudges against their former spouses, the way Neil has. I mean, I have never in my life heard anything so loving and humble and generous and healing. It was quite impressive because I didn't have the same experience.
Well, that's really the challenge, isn't it? Is to find a way to feel love for people who have hurt us. And I think the one thing that Neil shared in that workshop was the story of the Buddha and the saw. And I don't know that I'm going to I don't know that I'm going to be able to do it justice, but it was something along the lines of someone is sawing the Buddha, somebody was sawing the Buddha in half, two guys with a saw, and that unless, the Buddha said, unless you have love and compassion for them, you haven't learned the lesson. And so that's my biggest takeaway from that workshop with Neil, is to try and imagine being in that place where I'm being sawed in half by two people, and that I can hold them in my heart with compassion and love while they're doing it. I'm not there yet, but I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. I am.
I was sitting,
I believe you are, Linda.
yeah.
That's what's so annoying about you. I believe you'll get there.
But that's part of the conversation, right? So if I do get there, then you all can see how I got there, and it will give you hope.
Elevate us anyway. If you get there, when you get there, that elevates all of us.
Exactly.
I didn't think of that, Mary. I'm glad you mentioned it.
The other thing I want to point out that has helped me is a concept from A Course in Miracles, which is everything is either love or a cry for love. So the people who are hurting people or me or whatever, it's a cry for love, and it's misguided. And it helps me to remember that, I mean, I have mostly tried in life not to be cruel. That was a word we discussed last week. And even still, and that, seriously, that's a concerted effort I have made since birth, never to, because I have the impulse to say or do the rotten thing. And, you know, I have always looked at that and went, I don't want to be that person. But still, I have sometimes said things and done things that were cruel or than I would have liked to be. And that gives me the capacity to have compassion and empathy for people who give in to those impulses. So I think if we can find the part of ourselves that understands, that makes it easier. And I've had conversations with friends where it's like, I don't think I can possibly forgive that person unless they apologize to me for all the horrible things they said. I'm like, that's like forgiveness, like basic level forgiveness. If someone apologizes and you forgive, the work is in learning to forgive. The person who will never apologize and doesn't even think they've done anything wrong, you know,
right.
That's the work. That's PhD level forgiveness. And that is the path that I've been working on for a while now.
How beautifully you stated it, Mary. That's just lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mary, it's perfect. And that's where that saying, hurt people right. comes from, right? If you've said something that was cruel, it's because there's a part of you that's not healed from some cruelty that's been done to you.
Right.
And that's, if there's one thing of all things that people could do to further this world into a loving place, it's to heal their own wounds. It's to love themselves enough to heal themselves. If everyone would to do that, we'd solve the problems of the world overnight.
Yes, And that's why I once thought that that would be my work that I made money at, helping people do that. And I don't necessarily feel that anymore, but I still feel like that is my job here on earth, is as much as possible just shine the light of love for people. And you know, it's like why the only thing, when you were talking, Linda, about having love and compassion for the people who are sawing you in half, it's like the only reason, like that is the only thing that works, because it's all coming from the pain of unhealed wounds. And the only thing that works is love. Judgment doesn't work, and fighting doesn't work, you know.
Right.
Both the people, the vision of a love that is what we all are and what they are, and the light, like Shabana said, you know, we are all a lighthouse, whether our light is shining bright or whether it's got a lot of dust on the light, you know. And that's the work, is to hold that awareness of the humans that we are dealing with individually and on a global scale. Thank you all for letting me share that.
That's a beautiful sharing. I just need to say one little thing. Is it too late for everyone?
No, keep going.
Okay, I'll say it quickly. My daughter lives in a small town near Los Angeles, and she wrote to me saying that she's exceedingly sad about the violence currently occurring across the United States. So, and she feels helpless to do anything to improve things. So I said to her something that is very easy, because I know Mary and Angela and Linda have cats and dogs. Like, you've got domestic animals, and my daughter's got a cat. So I said, every time you stroke the cat, imagine that you're stroking love into the hearts of both sides, the police and the demonstrators, and everyone else too. That the love you're pouring into your cat, pour into their hearts. And that's just as powerful as anything else, because we're all one. And this love, which is healing and merciful, generous, peaceful, harmonizing, stabilizing, comforting, this intention and the physical stroking are a means of bringing peace.
The love balm.
You're so funny.
I'm glad you appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you, Mary, and your jokes are hilarious.
Thank you, and right back at you, Shabana.
Thank you. By the way, does Sarah, I don't think Bima and Sarah Summersome have any animals, do they? I couldn't hear you, you're on mute.
You're muted, Sarah.
I do.
Oh, you do? Good, I'm sorry. Is it a cat or a dog?
Cats, they're just here at the moment.
How many?
2.
2. Nice.
Oh, I'm so sorry to just assume you didn't have them.
I don't have now, but I have had both dogs and cats when I had my kids at home. No, I don't have. There are many cats around here where I live, but I don't have now. But had for many, many years. And one of our dogs got 9 puppets.
Wow.
So yes, I had lived with it.
I didn't have a cat for a long time after my last one passed. And I just got this little Lacey a few weeks ago. And I'm so happy to have her. And thank you for making the connection that all the love that I'm pouring into her is entering the field, you know, because I will just sit there and pet her and tell her how much I love her and how sweet she is. And I just laugh and she just purrs. And that happens multiple times a day. So it's good for my vibration and her vibration. And I love feeling that it's also good for the vibration of, you know, everyone, especially with the difficult times that we're in.
Thank you for sharing that.
And I are lifting up the world together. I like
Yes,
it.
yes, yes. Sarah, do your cats play with each other, or do you have to stroke them?
Both. They like conversations with God because it's the only time I sit still.
Well, ladies, think we should draw it to a close.
Thank you very much, Linda.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.
Always wonderful.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for your energy and participation. It's always the highlight of my week, being here with you all, truly.
And mine too. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think when we leave, the recording will just automatically stop for Nanette. So, but she's got it going. So if she's not right here, which it sounds like she isn't because she's not coming on and saying,
Yeah.
hey, I'm here. I think we just all have to just leave. Or we could just all stay here until
Forever.
we want.
No. All right.
She comes back 3
We're
hours
all
later and we're all still
chatting.
here.
It would be
That'd be
very
funny.
funny. I do have another Zoom in an hour and a half, so I have an outer limit on how long I can stay.
Enjoy your other one, Mary.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye, you guys. Love you.
Bye. Bye.
Everyone, thank you.
All right. I'll leave. Oh, I see even when I